Hi guys, I'm Najabella again, and I'm here to do a video response to Ember Honey Raven and her creepiest, scariest movies that you've ever seen, the ones that scared you the most. She said it didn't have to be a horror movie if it scared the hell out of you, and I'd have to say the all-time number one that scared the hell out of me was Jaws. I live in a beach town. I grew up on the island, and my father was an avid surf fisherman. And in the months of June to August is breeding and birthing season of what looked exactly like a great white shark to me. They were probably more like a nurse shark, but that's not the point. I grew up on that. I saw those baby sharks, and they were always birthed between the first and second sandbar, which meant that they were no more than 10 to 50 feet offshore. So watching Jaws, it took me a long time to be able to go back into the water, knowing what I knew about sharks and shark babies, because where there's shark babies, there's shark mamas. And, as if you've all seen Jaws, Jaws was a shark mama. And I didn't want to piss shark mama off. Um, so all-time scariest movie to me was Jaws. Took me a long time to even be able to get off my bed in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, thinking I was going to get my leg bitten off by even trying to put my foot on the floor. So, Jaws, number one, scared the hell out of me with reinforced, ruined my beach thing from around 12 to about 16. I could never go in that water without considering the idea that I was going to be eaten alive by a shark. The Exorcist has to be up there as well. Um, Again, both of these movies, because when I first saw them, I was on the younger side as well. And The Exorcist doesn't scare me today like that, but I do like those kind of movies. Um, I was kind of fascinated if the priest has to show up with the holy water and all this stuff. I also like the movie Stigmata for that same reason, I think. Sort of the paranormal coming in, spirit, um, and that religious tone to it and everything. Although I was not raised Catholic or anything, but always kind of like that feel of that kind of movie. Um, Prophecy and stuff like that as well. I like those type movies with those kind of things. Although I don't believe Archangel Gabriel is as creepy as Christopher Walken. Um, if you wanted to talk, I didn't really watch a lot of scary movies once I got married, started having children, because it was scary enough for me to know that there were really people out there that were creepy enough to do terrible things. And once you become a mother, the first thing you think of is, how am I going to protect my children from all the creepy people out there? So I kind of lost my interest in scary movies for the longest time because of that. But as I grew up, that was what we did on the weekend. Friday, Saturday nights were, they would have Friday night Fright Night. They would also have a Saturday night one as well. This was back in the days when you only had 3 channels. And those were the only nights that the TV stayed on till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. They played the old horror movies, and I love them. Um, it's where I saw things like the cat people, but one of my all-time favorites was Betty Davis in her creepier movies such as Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, where she was accused of being the axe murderer, and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, with an equally creepy actress playing the second role as the sister, Joan Crawford, Mommy Dearest there. So those two ladies, they had them looking rather horrible in both of those movies, and they were excellent. Um, and then Betty Davis, the third horror movie was Harvest Home, where it had a very paganistic backdrop, and it had a very evil bent to an old pagan thing for the harvest. And I will never forget them clipping the tongue out of the man who was chosen to fertilize, well, was fertilizing the goddess, the representation of the goddess for the next year's harvest. Um, so anyway, those three movies by Betty Davis, excellent. Harvest Home, I've only seen, I think, twice as well. I don't know that they don't ever play that movie, but anybody, I did watch it when I was young, so it may have had a different thing to me watching it today, but then it was pretty scary. Um, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, drive-in days. Um, that was a classic. It was one of the original blood and guts movies. Nothing creepier than that old grandpa when you got him down and put him at the head of that table to put the girl's head over the bucket, and he was too weak to kill her, and he just kept hitting her with that sledgehammer and it deflecting off of her head. Um, that was pretty wicked as well. Um, this time of year in where I live, we have this thing with the birds that come. All these blackbirds hit all the trees and all the electrical lines and everything. And one little disturbance, and they all fly at once. And there's thousands of these birds. Still to this day, reminds me of Hitchcock and the birds. Um, he had a way of taking ordinary things and kind of putting a little evil twist on them. And of course, his all-time uh, one, Psycho. Uh, Talk about not wanting to take a shower. That was one of them. Going into any kind of um, you wouldn't call it a five-star hotel, let's put it that way. But if you had to stop on the road and take a night in one of those roadside hotels like that, yeah, you stop and think about the psycho factor involved in there. Doing a thing for Brenda Crozier, she likes the documentary style um, shows like Blair Witch and stuff like that. Well, when I was around 10 years old, a movie came out called The Legend of Boggy Creek. And I can't tell you that it was the first documentary style show like that, but it had to be close to one of the first. And its theme was around this monster that lived in the Boggy Creek area, and it was Arkansas. And it was a creature that was similar to Bigfoot or Sasquatch, and they did it in an extremely documentary style, scared the hell out of me, and made me think that it was true because I was 10. So I was very impressionable about how they did the style of the movie and stuff like that. So yes, that would be when I believed in Bigfoot. I'm not saying I don't think it really exists now. I just know that that movie, I was not really anxious to go stay at a house in the woods in Arkansas. Um, it was a very creepy movie. um, so I don't even think y'all can get that on VHS. I don't think you can get it on DVD. Um, but it is probably corny as hell now if I saw it today in my old age versus how young and impressionable I was then. But I have to say I loved it. And if you want creepy, the creepiest movie I saw, not the scariest, but the creepiest movie I saw, Jeff Bridges in the movie Tideland. That was a pretty friggin' creepy movie. I do own it because I have a fascination with creepy, but creepy. Um, and anything with Christopher Walken or Jack Nicholson, The Shining, gotta be up there. Stephen King's gotta be up there. I can't do three. I can't do a top three. I They all give something to the mix, and then I'd like to add what was the most humorous horror movie that people ever saw, because I can tell you that I am looking for this one still to this day for my collection. I have not been successful at finding it. It was a series that they did on this Fright Night thing that they had, and they would have a famous person take a traditional horror movie, like traditional Frankenstein or traditional Wolfman or any one of the ones, and then they were to put their artistic bent to it. This was the most twisted Dracula I've ever seen, and it wasn't scary. It was funny as hell, and it was done by Andy Warhol. So Andy Warhol's Dracula was the the funniest Dracula that I've seen. I would love to have that in my video library, DVD, whatever. I don't care how I have an old VHS, so I can actually play a VCR recorder. I can play it on there. I would love to put that in my film clip. It was about a Dracula who was getting sicker and sicker because he could only be revived by the blood of a virgin. And his problem was that he couldn't find a virgin anywhere. And if he had the blood of a non-virgin, it would make him sick. And there was a lady who had 3 daughters. And her husband had committed suicide, and they were one of these people who pretended to be rich because they had like this huge house and stuff like that, but they were broke, and she had no way of making any money. And so she wanted to marry her oldest daughter off to Count Dracula because she needed the infusion of money into her home, and that was how she was going to do it. So Dracula comes with his entourage, And so as the movie progressed, he actually um, said that as he came in with his entourage and everything, and they put the coffin down below and stuff, and even when the mother realized that he probably wasn't um, as sound a person as possible, since he had to have all these weird accommodations when he came in, he said that he needed to be with her daughter before he could agree to marry her. And by that, he meant he was going to take her blood. And then after he visited the oldest daughter, he gets her blood. You see him in the bathroom throwing up all over the place, getting sick as a dog after she had professed her oldest daughter was a virgin. So the next night, it was the middle daughter. And again, the same thing happened. And he didn't get down to it until he got to, I think it was the 12-year-old. And that was the theme, was that you had to get these extremely young girls because everybody else was no longer a virgin. And you have to remember this was the 60s, and I think it was probably 69, 70, 1970, somewhere around there, when this movie came out. And it was hilarious because Dracula was in dire straits. He was not in a good way. He couldn't find any untainted blood. Um, so I think that is some of my list. Um, um, I pick a horror movie depending on what kind of mood I'm in. So they don't necessarily have to be, I grew up with the Jamie Lee Curtis and the Scream Queen movies. So there were all kinds of movies that scared me. But most of them were just blood and guts. And, there's only so much blood and guts can take you. But just, so there's, sometimes you're in the mood for that. But there was one that I think it was Jamie Lee Curtis that was in. That did scare me. She was babysitting, and it came off of the old campfire story that we would tell that was scary, and they took it off of that theme where the person, this is back with landlines and stuff like that in the house, where the person would call on the phone and tell her, um, you know where the children are, things like that. Are you alone in the house? Blah blah blah. And she keeps calling the police, and they're trying to trace the call and doing all that stuff. And at the end, it's, oh my God, get out of the house. He's in the house calling you, because he was in another room where he was calling from the same house. So he was actually inside the house with her. So Jamie Lee Curtis, in her days of Scream Queen, that was pretty awesome. But I just have to say thank you, Ember Honeyraven, for helping me go back to a time in my life with my best friend, that we would stay up all night. We would scour our houses, go through the couches, everything, just scrape up enough money. We would go to the store, we would buy chips and dips and soda and candy or whatever, and we would get in front of the TV. And these things were always hosted by either Wolfman Jack or Vampira. And they would have a long series of these. And as we got a little bit older, Saturday Night Live, the original, came on. You just brought back a lot of old memories. And someone that I had pulled out her picture because she has been passed away for quite some time, and been thinking of her, and you brought back some wonderful memories that my friend Michelle and I used to do as we were growing up. We spent many, many hours watching these old classics, everything from Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, um, all the different kinds of movies that came out. We watched the old ones, the ones, we watched the ones that you would throw popcorn at the screen kind of thing. The blob that looked like the giant close-up toothpaste thing was coming at you to swallow you up. Um, there was the one that was, oh, and I can't remember what his name was now. Um, he was the guild man thing that was swimming in the thing in the forest, and he would come out and kill people in the middle of the night, that kind of thing. Anything that had Vincent Price in it. Oh my God, there was just too many, too many. Vincent Price had a lot of really good ones. A lot of his were the Edgar Allan Poe tales, so very classic. So I just have to say thank you for giving me some wonderful memories to reminisce on. Very apropos for Samhain, and something that I will be contemplating now. I think I will have to put up a little mini altar for Michelle now. Thank you so much. And maybe if after I get that altar done, I will um, put up another video. Thank you so much. Blessed be.